The council chamber stretched out like a massive arena, its curved walls rising hundreds of feet into the artificial sky. Thousands of seats held representatives from across the galaxy, each species distinct in form and color. At the center floor stood Jiwan, the human ambassador. Her hands clasped behind her back as she waited for the final count. She had known this day was coming for months. The whispers in the corridors, the closed-door meetings she was no longer invited to, the way conversations stopped when she entered a room. The other species had made their decision long before today's vote. Chairman Velthar raised his scaled hand, calling for silence. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into 1,000 languages by the neural implants each delegate wore. The vote is complete. The tally for the expulsion of humanity from the Galactic Council stands at 847. In favor, 12 against, and 34 abstentions. The chamber erupted in a mixture of relieved applause and uncomfortable silence. G1 stood perfectly still, her face calm. She had expected worse numbers. Honestly, 12 species had stood with humanity. That was something. Trade Minister Keegs clicked his mandibles together in what his species considered a smile. Ambassador G1, you have 72 standard hours to vacate council premises and begin withdrawal procedures. All human personnel must leave council space within 6 standard months. Do you have anything to say? Every eye in the chamber turned to her. They expected anger. They expected threats. The humans had the third largest military in council space, the most advanced technology in several key fields, and economic ties that ran through every major trade route. Surely, the humans would not go quietly. Jiwan stepped forward to the speaking platform. She looked up at the thousands of faces watching her, waiting for the explosion that never came. Thank you, Chairman Velthar, she said, her voice steady. Humanity respects this council's decision. We will begin immediate preparations for complete withdrawal. All contracts will be honored with appropriate notice. All joint projects will be documented and transferred to council oversight. All human personnel will vacate council space within the designated time frame. She paused, letting her words sink in. We came to this council 300 years ago, seeking partnership and friendship. We believed in the ideals this body represented. We still do. Even now, we wish all member species prosperity and peace. Jiwan gathered her datapad and the small box containing her family photos from her desk. We will leave all council property in perfect condition. You will find no sabotage, no hidden problems, no petty revenge. That is not who we are. We hope that someday circumstances may change. Until then, humanity bids the council farewell. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps the only sound in the massive chamber. No drama, no angry speeches, just a quiet dignity that left many delegates feeling strangely uncomfortable. Minister Prill leaned toward his aide. That was too easy. What are they planning? Quote, his aide shook her head. The human delegation is already packing. Their ships are requesting departure clearances. I think they really are just leaving. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Human colonies received the message within hours. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Determination, reading the official withdrawal order. His crew looked to him for guidance. Begin recall protocols, he said quietly. All human vessels are to return to human space. Send messages to our joint patrol partners. Let them know we will be departing the frontier sectors within 2 weeks. His second officer spoke up. Sir, what about the pirates in the Outer Rim? We have 3 active operations running right now. Species that depend on our patrols. Hyunwoo felt a weight settle in his chest. Transfer all tactical data to council forces. Recommend they increase patrol density by 40% to compensate for our absence. But our orders are clear. We leave. On Research Station Delta 7, scientist Minji saved the last of her experiments and began the backup process. Her lab partner, a crystalline being named Shrix, watched in confusion. "You are really leaving? Just like that?" Shrix's translated voice carried a note of disbelief. Minji nodded, carefully packing her instruments. "The Council has spoken. We respect their decision. But the quantum research, we are so close to a breakthrough. Another month, maybe 2. I have documented everything," Minji said gently. "All my notes, all the experimental data, every formula and calculation. It is all yours now. I hope you finish the work. I really do." Shrix's crystalline body flickered with colors that indicated distress. "This is wrong. The vote was wrong. You know that. Yes? What I know," Minji said, sealing the last container, "is that we cannot stay where we are not wanted. Forcing our presence would make us the problem they already think we are. Sometimes, the strongest choice is to walk away." Across 100 worlds, similar scenes played out. Human teachers said goodbye to their students. Human doctors transferred patient files to local staff. Human engineers showed their replacements how to maintain the systems they had built. Human merchants settled their accounts and closed their shops. There was no chaos, no anger, no bitterness. Just a quiet, methodical withdrawal that somehow felt more unsettling than any threat could have been. Back in the council chamber, the delegates slowly filed out, returning to their offices and quarters. Chairman Velthar sat alone in the empty hall, staring at the spot where Jiwan had stood. His aide approached cautiously. "Sir, is something wrong? We won. The humans are leaving without any conflict." Velthar nodded slowly. "Yes, that is exactly what worries me. I expected them to fight, to argue, to make demands." He stood, his ancient bones creaking. Instead, they simply accepted our rejection and walked away with grace. Either they are far wiser than we gave them credit for, or far more dangerous. I am not sure which possibility troubles me more. The aide did not answer. There was nothing to say. In 72 hours, every human would be gone from council space. The galaxy was about to learn what it truly meant to lose something you never appreciated until it was gone. The mining colony on Vermilion 9 had been humanity's pride for 70 years. Deep beneath the red soil, human engineers had built extraction facilities that pulled rare minerals from the planet's core with minimal environmental damage. The colony employed 15,000 humans and provided refined materials to 60 different council worlds. Taeyong walked through the control center one last time, his boots echoing on the metal floors. Every screen showed green lights. Every system ran perfectly. He had spent the last 3 weeks making sure of that. "Final inspection complete," he reported to his team. "All automated systems are online. All maintenance schedules are programmed for the next 5 years. The station can run itself, but I recommend council oversight assigns at least a basic crew." His deputy, who had worked beside him for 12 years, looked around the empty facility. "It feels wrong, leaving it like this. We built this place from nothing." Taeyang nodded. "And now we leave it better than we found it. That is what matters." He transmitted the final reports to council administration, uploaded the last backup, and walked toward the shuttle bay. Behind him, the colony continued its work, extracting minerals with perfect efficiency, just without any humans to guide it. In orbit above the frontier world of Calyx 3, Commander Sora supervised the withdrawal of the 7th Human Defense Fleet. 43 ships, from massive carriers to small patrol craft, formed up in perfect formation. "All personnel accounted for?" she asked. "Yes, Commander. Every human citizen has been evacuated from the surface. Joint military bases have been transferred to Council authority. All supplies and equipment cataloged and left in operational condition." Sora pulled up the tactical display. The Calyx system sat at a critical junction between 3 major trade routes. Human patrols had kept these lanes safe for 2 centuries. Now, Council forces would have to cover the gap. "Send our final report to Fleet Command Threx," she ordered. Include tactical analysis of pirate activity patterns, recommended patrol schedules, and early warning protocols. Give them everything they need to maintain security. Her communications officer hesitated. Commander, are we really just handing over all our tactical data? That took decades to compile. We are not at war with the Council, Sora said firmly. We are simply leaving. If our data helps protect innocent civilians, then it serves a good purpose, whether those civilians are human or not. The fleet turned as one, engines flaring blue-white in the darkness. Within minutes, they entered jump space, leaving the frontier behind. On the Council homeworld, trade negotiator Daehyun sat across from Minister Prill for the last time. Between them sat a datapad containing the final dissolution of 300 years of commercial agreements. I must protest this again, Prill clicked. Human shipping companies are the backbone of galactic trade. Your withdrawal will cause severe economic disruption. Daehyun slid the datapad across the table. All contracts are being terminated with the proper 6-month notice as specified in the original agreements. Every delivery scheduled within that time frame will be completed. After that, human vessels will only operate within human territory. This is madness. Do you understand the cost increases? Other shipping companies will charge triple what you charge. Then I suggest the Council negotiate better rates with those companies. Daehyun stood, extending his hand for a farewell gesture. Prill did not take it. You are doing this out of spite, the minister accused. Punishing us for the vote. Daehyun lowered his hand. No, minister. We are doing this because we were asked to leave. You cannot expel us from the Council and then expect our continued economic participation. That would make no sense. He walked to the door, then paused. For what it is worth, I will miss working with you. You were always a fair negotiator, even when we disagreed. I hope the next humans you meet, if there are any, receive the courtesy you showed me. The door closed behind him, leaving Prill alone with the datapad and the growing realization of what was coming. The worst part was not the anger or the accusations, it was the silence. Ambassador Velthar sent 17 messages to Jiwon in the first month after the vote. Not formal communications, but personal notes asking for dialogue, for discussion, for some kind of ongoing relationship. None were answered. When he finally reached a human communications officer, a young man named Minho, the conversation was brief and painfully polite. Ambassador Jiwon is no longer available for Council communications, Minho explained. Humanity has appointed no replacement. All formal matters should be directed to our diplomatic archive for historical record. I am not asking for formal dialogue, Velthar said, hearing the desperation in his own voice. I am asking as someone who worked beside her for 40 years. Is she well? Is she angry? Does she hate us? Minho's expression remained neutral. I cannot speak to Ambassador Jiwon's personal feelings. What I can tell you is that humanity respects the Council's decision and wishes all member species well. We have nothing further to discuss. Is there anything else, Chairman? The title felt wrong now. Like a reminder of the authority he had used to push the humans away. No, nothing else. The communication ended. Velthar sat in his office, surrounded by decades of diplomatic achievements and awards, and felt completely hollow. Throughout Council space, the human absence became more noticeable each day. The joint research facility on Telmar went dark when the last human scientists departed. Their alien colleagues tried to continue the work, but quickly discovered that the humans had been doing far more of the complex calculations than anyone realized. Human-run hospitals transferred patients to local facilities. Most transitions went smoothly, but mortality rates increased by 7% in the first month. Human medical techniques, it turned out, had been keeping those numbers lower than anyone knew. Schools that had employed human teachers struggled to replace them. It was not that humans were better educators, but they had brought different perspectives and methods that students had thrived under. Now those approaches were gone. The entertainment networks noticed it too. Human music, human stories, human art, had become woven into galactic culture. Now that creative flow simply stopped. No new human films, no new human songs, just archives of what came before. 5 months after the vote, every human was gone. The borders to human space remained open, and communication channels worked. But messages sent into that territory went unanswered. Trade requests were declined with polite automated responses. Cultural exchange applications received no reply. Humanity had not built a wall. They had simply stopped participating. And somehow, that felt worse than any barrier could. In the council chamber, delegates gathered for their regular session. For the first time in 300 years, the human seat sat empty. Not removed, not destroyed, just empty. No one sat in it. No one even looked at it directly. It was as if the empty chair was an accusation none of them wanted to face. The meeting proceeded. Business was conducted. Votes were taken. But everyone noticed the silence where the human voice used to be. The first attack came exactly 6 months and 3 days after the last human ship left Council space. The merchant vessel Prosperity's Dream was hauling medical supplies from the core worlds to the outer colonies when pirates struck. 3 ships dropped out of jump space. Weapons hot. Demanding cargo and credits. The captain sent the distress call that had always worked before. This is Prosperity's Dream requesting immediate assistance. Under attack at coordinates 7 Alpha. Pirates in sector. 15 minutes passed. Then, 30. When Council patrol ships finally arrived, the Prosperity's Dream was a burning hulk drifting in space. The crew had been spaced. The cargo was gone. The pirates had vanished. Fleet Coordinator Threx reviewed the incident report with growing anger. His warriors were brave and skilled, but the response time was unacceptable. "Explain this delay," he demanded of his tactical staff. A young officer brought up the patrol routes. "Sir, we have reorganized patrols to cover the sectors previously handled by human forces, but we lack the ship numbers and the tactical network they provided. This attack occurred in a gap between our patrol routes. Then close the gaps." "We are trying, sir, but human vessels patrolled 40% of the frontier. We are stretched too thin." Threx looked at the map showing pirate activity. 6 months ago, incidents were rare. Now, attacks were happening weekly. The pirates had noticed the same thing his tactical staff had. The humans were gone, and there were gaps in the defense. He sent additional ships to the frontier, pulling them from other duties. It would have to be enough. It was not enough. At the Galactic Research Institute, Scientific Director Zan floated in his tank, reviewing the latest progress reports. Or rather, the lack of progress. The quantum computing project had stalled completely. The team could not replicate the results Minji and her colleagues had achieved before their departure. The equations worked in theory, but implementation kept failing. "Have you tried contacting the humans for consultation?" Zan asked his lead researcher. 7 times, Director. We received automated responses stating that humanity is not currently accepting consultation requests from council institutions. Zan's frustration bubbled through his tank in streams of agitated water. "Show me the documentation they left behind." The files were comprehensive. Every experiment was documented. Every formula was explained. Every step of the process was recorded. But something was missing. Not deliberately hidden, Zan realized, but simply the intuitive leaps that came from deep understanding. The humans had not sabotaged anything. They had just taken their expertise with them. "Continue working on it," Zan ordered, knowing it was futile. "And start looking for alternative approaches that do not rely on human methodology. They would figure it out eventually," he told himself. It would just take longer. Much longer. Economic Minister Prill stared at the trade reports with disbelief. Shipping costs had increased by an average of 270% across major routes. Some remote colonies were seeing increases of 400%. The problem was simple math. Human shipping companies had been extremely efficient. Their routes were optimized, their vessels well-maintained, their scheduling precise. They charged fair rates because their operating costs were low. Other species, shipping companies, were not as efficient. Their costs were higher, so their rates were higher. And now, with human competition gone, they had no incentive to lower those rates. This is unsustainable, Prill told the Council Economic Committee. Colony worlds cannot afford these shipping costs. Food prices are rising. Medical supplies are being rationed. We are looking at economic collapse in the outer systems within a year. Can we negotiate with the human shipping companies? Someone asked. Prill had tried. He had sent official requests to every major human shipping corporation. The responses were identical. Thank you for your interest. We are currently operating only within human territory and have no plans to expand operations. We wish you success in meeting your shipping needs. Thank you. We have no sis. We have no self. He had even tried offering premium rates, double what the humans used to charge. The answer was, still no. They are not interested, Prill reported. They have sufficient business within their own space. They do not need council contracts. The committee descended into argument about subsidies and emergency measures. Prill stopped listening. He was thinking about his last conversation with Daehyun, the human negotiator who had always been reasonable and fair. He had sent 3 personal messages to Daehyun in the past month. None had been answered. On the colony world of Braxis 4, the hospital administrator reviewed the monthly mortality statistics with a heavy heart. Deaths were up 18% compared to the same period last year. It was not that the remaining doctors were incompetent. They were skilled and dedicated. But techniques that human doctors had used, innovations they had brought to surgical procedures, and diagnostic methods were proving difficult to replicate. The humans had shared their knowledge freely. The medical libraries were full of human research papers and technique guides. But reading about a surgical technique and actually performing it were very different things. We need training, the chief surgeon said during the staff meeting. Direct instruction from human medical personnel. I have submitted 12 requests to human medical schools, the administrator replied. All declined. They are not accepting non-human students at this time. The room fell silent. So we just accept higher death rates? Someone finally asked. We work with what we have, the administrator said quietly. And we learn as fast as we can. In the council chamber, 9 months after the vote, Chairman Velthar called for an emergency economic session. The reports were grim. Trade was down. Research had stalled. Frontier security was deteriorating. Colony worlds were struggling. This is not sustainable, Economic Minister Prill stated flatly. The human departure has created cascading problems across every sector. We need to negotiate their return. They do not want to return, Velthar said. I have tried. We haven't Reckling. I have tried. Try harder. Offer them better terms. Full voting rights. Expanded territory. Technology sharing agreements. Velthar pulled up his communication logs, the long list of unanswered messages. They are not responding. To anyone. Military Coordinator Threx spoke up. Perhaps they are waiting for us to truly understand what we have lost. Perhaps they want us to struggle first. That is vindictive, someone protested. No, Threx said thoughtfully. That is smart. Why would they return if we have not learned our lesson? We expelled them once. What stops us from doing it again when they become inconvenient? The truth of that statement settled over the chamber like a weight. We need them more than they need us, Prill said quietly. That was always true. We just did not want to admit it. Velthar looked at the economic projections. How long do we have before these problems become catastrophic? Frontier colonies will start experiencing serious shortages in 6 months, Prill calculated. Research initiatives are already years behind schedule. Pirate activity will likely increase through the next year, and there are rumors of increased movement from the Devourers at the edge of known space. The Devourers. The ancient machine intelligence that had been quiet for centuries, but never truly gone. Humanity's tactical networks and early warning systems had been crucial in monitoring the border regions where Devourer activity was detected. No one wanted to think about what would happen if the Devourers decided to move while humanity was absent. Continue attempting contact with human leadership, Velthar ordered. Offer whatever concessions are necessary. We made a mistake. It is time we admitted it. But deep down, he knew it would not be that simple. The humans were not angry. They were not bitter. They were simply done. And bringing them back would require more than apologies. It would require the Council to fundamentally change. And change was something the ancient institution was very bad at. The distress signal came from monitoring station Epsilon 9 at the edge of Council space. 3 words, repeating on all frequencies. Devourers. They come. Devourers. Then, silence. Military Coordinator Threx stood in the command center as reports flooded in. Long-range sensors showed massive energy signatures moving through the outer sectors. The Devourers, dormant for 300 years, were on the move. How many? He demanded. Initial estimates show at least 500 capital ships, possibly more. They are moving in coordinated groups, not random raiders. The tactical officer's voice shook. This is a full invasion force. Threx felt ice run through his veins. 500 ships. The Council had never faced a Devourer fleet that large. The last major engagement had involved 20 ships and cost thousands of lives. Mobilize all fleets, send them to the outer defense perimeter, and activate the early warning network. There was an uncomfortable pause. Sir, the early warning network was primarily maintained by human monitoring stations. Those stations are still operational, but we have no access to their data feeds. Our own sensors have less range and resolution. Of course they did. The humans had maintained the most advanced sensor networks, sharing data freely with Council forces. Now, those networks were dark to Council access. Threx made the decision quickly. Send emergency broadcasts to all frontier colonies. Begin evacuation procedures. And someone get me a communication line to Earth. Now. The first battle was a disaster. Council forces met the Devourer vanguard at the Talus system. 60 Council ships against 15 Devourer vessels. The odds should have favored the Council. But Council forces fought as they always had, each species operating independently with their own tactics and command structures. The Devourers fought as a single, unified mind, each ship perfectly coordinated with the others. Within 2 hours, 40 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. The Devourers lost 3 vessels and continued their advance. Threx watched the battle recordings with horror. We need unified command. All species must coordinate as a single fleet. That will take time to implement, his aide said. The different species have different tactical doctrines, different communication protocols. The humans did it, Threx interrupted. They operated seamlessly with all Council forces. How? The aide pulled up the old files. They developed universal tactical protocols, translation software that worked in real time, command structures that integrated different species' strengths. He paused. It took them 40 years to build that system. We do not have 40 years. We do not have 40 days. The Devourers swept through system after system. Colony after colony went dark. Refugee ships fled toward the inner worlds, carrying stories of unstoppable machine intelligence that consumed everything in its path. In the Council chamber, panic was setting in. We must negotiate with them, someone suggested. They are machines, Threx said coldly. They do not negotiate. They consume. They replicate. They expand. That is all they do. Economic Minister Prill stood, his usual calculating demeanor replaced by desperation. Then we must contact the humans. Immediately. Offer them anything they want. Chairman Velthar had already tried. He had sent urgent messages through every channel, official and unofficial. Offers of full council membership, expanded territories, access to all council technologies, formal apologies, reparations. The response had come from Admiral Jihoon of the Earth Defense Force. Audio only. Brief and formal. We acknowledge the difficult situation facing the Galactic Council. Earth recognizes the Devourer threat as serious and dangerous. However, humanity is no longer a council member and has no treaty obligations to defend council space. Our forces will defend human territories and human citizens only. We wish the council success in resolving this crisis. The message had hit the council like a physical blow. Velthar had tried again, this time pleading, "We were wrong. We know that now. Please, we need your help." The second response came from the same admiral, just as brief. "We understand the council's position. However, Earth cannot commit military forces to council space without proper authorization and invitation. Furthermore, our forces answer to Earth's government, not to the council that expelled us. We recommend the council marshal all available resources for defense. Good luck. Good luck." As if that would save them. 3 months into the invasion, 20% of council space was under Devourer control. The death toll was in the billions. Entire species were on the verge of extinction. And still, humanity did nothing. Youngji sat at her monitoring station on the human border, watching the council refugee ships arrive. Hundreds of them, packed with civilians, fleeing the invasion. They gathered at the edge of human space, requesting asylum. She opened a communication channel. "This is Border Station Daejeon. All refugee vessels are cleared for entry. Proceed to designated coordinates. Humanitarian facilities are standing by to provide medical care, food, water, and temporary housing. You are safe here." The council ships limped into human space, and the refugees wept with relief. Human medical ships met them. Human supply vessels distributed food and water. Human volunteers helped process the endless stream of scared, traumatized civilians. But no human warships crossed the border into council space. A council officer on one of the refugee ships sent a message to the station. "Why do you help us, but not fight for us?" Youngji answered personally. "Because we do not abandon sapient beings to death. Even when their governments have abandoned us. Every life matters. Every child deserves safety. But our military serves Earth, not the Council. We cannot send our soldiers to die for a government that cast us out. That would betray our own people. You want us to beg?" "No," Youngji said quietly. "We want you to survive. The refugee camps are open. Anyone who flees the invasion will find safety here. But we will not invade council space uninvited. That is not who we are." The refugee camps grew larger every day. Millions of council citizens found themselves under human protection. The humans fed them, treated their wounds, housed their children, asked nothing in return. It was kindness that somehow made the council's shame even worse. Chairman Velthar stood in what remained of the council chamber, now relocated to an inner system far from the front lines. Half the council was dead or missing. Entire species faced extinction, and he had run out of options. He composed one final message to Earth. Not to the Admiral, not to any official. To Jiwan, his old colleague. "I am sorry. I was wrong. We were all wrong. We feared your strength when we should have celebrated it. We resented your independence when we should have learned from it. We punished you for being different when we should have valued what you brought to us. Now, our people are dying. Our worlds are burning. And I am left with the knowledge that we did this to ourselves. You do not owe us anything. We cast you out. We rejected you. But if there is any mercy in humanity, any compassion for those who wronged you, please help us. Not because we deserve it, but because billions of innocent people will die if you do not. I am not asking as a chairman. I am begging, as someone who knows he failed his own people, by pushing away the friends we needed most. He sent the message and waited. The response came 3 hours later. Not from G1, but from Earth's civilian government. Your message has been received and discussed at the highest levels. Ambassador G1 wishes you to know she does not hate the Council, and never did. Humanity is preparing a response. Stand by. I would be 4,000. See an AT. And Elements. I would be 4,000. I would be 4,000. And Elements. I would be 4,000. Velthar closed his eyes. It was not a promise of help. But it was not a refusal either. It was hope. And hope was all they had left. The Council's temporary headquarters was a shadow of its former glory. Located on a heavily defended inner world, the building was crowded with refugees, military personnel, and the remaining government officials who had survived the invasion. The grand chamber that once held thousands now accommodated barely 200 delegates. Jiwon walked through the corridors, flanked by 2 human security officers. She noticed the changes immediately. The proud banners of member species hung torn or missing. The polished floors were scuffed and dirty. The air recycling system was struggling, leaving everything smelling stale. But most noticeable were the council species themselves. Gone was the arrogance, the dismissive looks, the casual superiority she had endured for years. Now they looked at her with desperate hope, with shame, with raw need. Chairman Velthar met her at the chamber entrance. He looked like he had aged 20 years in the 18 months since the vote. His scales were dull, his movements slow. Ambassador Jiwon, thank you for coming. She studied his face. I am no longer an ambassador, Chairman. That title ended when you expelled humanity from the Council. Then why did you come? Because you asked me to, and because people are dying. She gestured to the chamber. Shall we? Inside, the remaining Council delegates rose as she entered. The gesture of respect felt hollow after everything, but Jiwon acknowledged it with a nod. She took her place at the center of the floor, the same spot where she had stood during the expulsion vote. I will be direct, she began, her voice carrying through the chamber without amplification. Humanity has decided to intervene in the Devourer crisis. Our fleets are already moving into position along the invasion front. Our tactical networks are being deployed. Our resources are being committed to this fight. Relief flooded through the chamber. Some delegates wept openly, but Jiwon raised her hand for silence. However, we are not doing this because we seek to rejoin the Council. We are not doing this to prove ourselves superior. We are not doing this for territory or power or revenge. She paused, making eye contact with delegates across the room. We are doing this because it is right. Because billions of innocent civilians do not deserve to die for their government's mistakes. Because we remember what it feels like to face extinction alone. She pulled up a holographic display showing human fleet positions. Our ships will coordinate with Council forces, not command them. We will share tactical data, medical resources, and strategic planning. But this will be a joint effort. Every species that can fight will fight together, as equals. Military Coordinator Threx stood. We accept any terms. We need your help desperately. I know you do, Jiwon said quietly. But I need you to understand something. After this is over, things cannot go back to how they were. The Council system is broken. It was broken before the Devourers attacked. The invasion just made it impossible to ignore. Economic Minister Prill clicked forward. What changes do you propose? Changes I do not propose. Changes you must make yourselves. G1 brought up a document on the display. But I have suggestions, based on 300 years of humanity's experience with this Council. First, no member species can be expelled without unanimous vote. Minus the species being expelled. What happened to us should never happen to anyone else. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Second, all species contribute to joint military defense. But no single species commands more than 20% of Council forces. Power must be distributed. Threx nodded. Wise. Third, economic policies must protect smaller and newer species from exploitation. The Council should not be a club for the powerful to dominate the weak. She continued through a list of reforms, each one addressing problems humanity had identified over centuries. The delegates listened, some taking notes, others nodding in recognition of issues they had always known existed but never addressed. Finally, Velthar spoke. And will humanity rejoin the Council if we implement these reforms? That is not my decision alone, Jiwan said. Earth's government will make that choice. But I can tell you that humanity will never again accept being treated as a problem to be solved or a threat to be managed. We will participate as equals, or we will not participate at all. Understood, Velthar said softly. The battle for Council space took 6 brutal months. Human fleets arrived along the invasion front and immediately began coordinating with Council forces. Captain Hyunwoo commanded the determination from the bridge, his tactical display showing dozens of Council ships operating in perfect synchronization with human vessels. All ships, this is determination. Execute pattern Delta 7. Council cruisers advance on the flanks. Human carriers provide covering fire. Remember, we move as one unit. Your species does not matter. Your ship class does not matter. We are one fleet now. The Devourers had never faced truly unified resistance. Their tactics assumed divided enemies, fighting independently. When Council and human forces operated as a single, coordinated entity, the Devourers' advantage evaporated. The first major victory came at the Braxis system. 30 human ships and 50 Council vessels surrounded a Devourer fleet of 40 capital ships. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, 37 Devourer ships were destroyed. The remaining 3 retreated. Council forces lost 12 ships, human forces lost 4. It was a ratio the Council had never achieved before. Scientist Minji worked alongside her former colleague Shrix in a mobile research facility near the front lines. They were developing countermeasures against Devourer technology, combining human innovation with Council knowledge. Your approach to quantum disruption is brilliant, Shrix said, his crystalline body flickering with excitement. Why did you not share this before? 5. I did share, Minji said gently. It was in my final research notes. But some things cannot be learned from documents alone. They require working together, teaching, and learning in real time. She smiled. Nutter. Which is what we are doing now. Shrix was silent for a moment. We took this for granted. The collaboration. The shared knowledge. We did not realize how much we were losing until it was gone. Now you know, Minji said. Make sure you remember it. The turning point came at the Nexus Prime station, humanity's original entry point to the Council 300 years ago. The Devourers had captured it and were using it as a staging ground for deeper invasion. Admiral Ji-hoon commanded the assault personally, coordinating human and Council forces in the largest joint operation in galactic history. 200 ships against the heavily fortified station and its Devourer defenders. All forces, this is Admiral Ji-hoon. Today we take back Nexus Prime, not for humanity alone, not for the Council alone, but for every species that calls this galaxy home. Show them what unity looks like. Show them what we can accomplish together. All ships, advance. The battle raged for 3 days. Every species fought with desperate courage. Human shield technology protected Council vessels. Council weapons tore through Devourer defenses. Species that had barely worked together 18 months ago now fought as brothers and sisters. When the station was finally retaken, the Devourer invasion collapsed. Cut off from their staging ground and facing unified resistance everywhere they turned, the machine intelligence began a fighting retreat back to the edge of known space. It took another 2 months to push them completely out of Council territory, but the crisis was over. The Council had survived. In the rebuilt Council chamber, now relocated back to Nexus Prime, a historic vote was taking place. Chairman Velthar stood before the assembly. The measure before us is comprehensive reform of the Galactic Council structure. incorporating the recommendations provided by humanity and other species. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. The reforms are adopted, Velthar announced. Then he paused. There is one more matter. The question of humanity's membership in this council. We expelled them in our fear and pride. Now we must ask if they will return. He looked at Jiwan, who sat in the visitors section, not yet a delegate. Ambassador Jiwan. Will humanity rejoin the Galactic Council? Jiwan stood slowly. She had consulted with Earth's government for weeks on this decision. The answer had been difficult, painful, necessary. Yes, she said simply. But not because we forgive easily, and not because we forget what happened. We will rejoin because we believe in what the Council can be, not what it was. We will rejoin because our species learned long ago that isolation is not strength. We will rejoin because the galaxy is safer when we work together. She walked to the center of the chamber, to the spot she had stood so many times before. But we will never again be silent when we see injustice. We will never again accept being treated as lesser, and we will never again allow this council to cast out a member species out of fear or pride. If we see you making those mistakes again, we will call you on it loudly and publicly. That is the price of our return. Velthar nodded. We would expect nothing less. Welcome back, Ambassador. The chamber erupted in genuine applause. Not polite political theater, but real appreciation born from shared struggle and hard-won respect. Later, in a quiet moment, Velthar found Jiwan looking out at the stars from an observation deck. Do you hate us for what we did? He asked quietly. Jiwan considered the question. No, I am disappointed. I am frustrated. But hate requires energy I would rather spend on building something better. We did not deserve your help. No. She agreed. You did not. But the civilians fleeing the devourers deserved safety. The soldiers fighting impossible odds deserved support. The children hiding in refugee camps deserved protection. We did not help because you deserved it. We helped because they did. We helped because they did. Velthar looked out at the repaired station, at the mixed fleet of human and council ships patrolling together. We will not forget this lesson. You might, Jiwan said honestly. People forget, institutions especially. That is why we will be here to remind you. Not as rulers, not as saviors, but as partners who remember what almost was lost. She turned to face him directly. The humans who left in silence taught you a lesson. Make sure it was worth the price you paid to learn it. Velthar had no answer to that. There was no answer that could undo the mistakes or restore the lives lost. But there was a future to build. And this time, they would build it together.